Contentment. Yeah. Contentment can be your best friend. Contentment, I believe, can extend your life. A lot of times we look at different words, and sometimes we don't look at the definition of a word. I looked at the definition for contentment. Contentment, it says, is a state of happiness or a state of satisfaction. And then I also looked to see what the attributes of contentment was. It says satisfaction, a lack of envy, it's humility, it's discipline, it's an abhorrence of greed and corruption. Yeah. And then the benefits. Contentment has benefits. It gives peace of mind. Yep. And peace of mind, which can and often does lead to growth and self-improvement. Yeah, it leads to self-improvement. And also happiness. Happiness is contentment, but contentment is really what promotes happiness. And also, contentment can lead to stronger relationships. Now, contentment also a benefit of contentment. A benefit, it helps you in distinguishing. When you're content, you can distinguish between your wants and your needs. And another benefit is simplicity. Yeah, simplicity. And let me see, contentment. Contentment comes from knowing God and delighting in God's sovereign care. Yeah, it comes from God. And when we can delight in His sovereign care. Now, there is temptation to be discontent. Yeah. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Opportunities to not be content. But when we realize and we know and we rest in the fact that contentment, actually, when you realize, just get a revelation. Oh, God. A revelation that contentment is a choice. Yeah. Contentment is a choice. And it's a choice we all have. If you get an opportunity, go to 1 Timothy, the 6th chapter and the 6th verse. And you know what it says? It's a very familiar, few simple words. I won't say it's familiar. It might not be familiar to you. I don't want to say that. I don't want to assume that. But it says, godliness with contentment is great gain. Great gain. Great gain. Okay, but like a lot of words that we look at, sometimes and the reason I wanted to share those definitions and what the benefits of contentment is because a lot of times words can lose meaning. You know, we use them so loosely, and sometimes you just need to know what the definition might really truly be. And those were what contentment means. Those few little definitions are just a few. And sometimes we come up with the notion that contentment is actually the very opposite of success. We believe that contentment is obtainable only if we stop striving. You don't have to stop striving to have contentment. Who wants to do that? Nobody. We're afraid that if we stand still for just a little while, the city might move on without us. But no, the city, it won't move on. Whatever city you in, it's not going to move on without you. You know what? There was an old gentleman that I knew. He's gone on to be with the Lord. And I used to say it like this, and I kind of coin it now. The ocean is like this. If you take your hand and you put your hand in the ocean will make room for you. If you take your hand out of the ocean's going to go on and just roll along like it normally would. That's not exactly how we put it, but that was the gist of it. But a lot of times we're afraid that if we stand still for a moment, that we're going to miss out and things are going to pass us by. So we have to make up our minds that we'll be content someday. And sometimes we think it has to be when we retire. You know what? Sometimes if we don't learn to be content before we retire, we might not live to retire, right? So if you're listening to this and you're just a regular person and you're trying to get ahead in the world, contentment might be the last thing you're trying to get successful in. You're trying for success, but you're not trying to be successful in being content. It's probably the very last thing that you like. Okay, this is on my list. I'm striving for this. Yeah. And a lot of times we don't strive for that. But you know what? It's a good chance that you long for contentment. The average person want to be content. Why? Because it's the core of peace. If you have contentment, you have peace. You have peace in the mind. And if you have contentment, you will have happiness. Anybody who is content has very little stress. You know how they say you have to declutter? If you want to declutter or deactivate stress, be content. But sometimes we just go on ahead and we like a wind-up toy, and we just going on and we just moving fast and we just forging on. But you know what? Sometimes we dive headlong into situations and we just get lost in the situation and get caught up in this cycle. And sometimes that cycle can be overspending, and it can be overcommitting ourselves. It can be overworking, trying to take all the overtime in the world, trying to be everywhere, trying to please everybody. But balance brings some contentment. And when people love you, guess what? They're not going to try to push you to those edges. People who do that, they're not content themselves. You want to know if people really want your happiness? Do they try to seek to steal your contentment, or do they try to share in your contentment? Yeah, that's one thing. And when you do all the overspending, the overcommitting, the overworking, and all that, what is it for? Is it for happiness? Does it add to your happiness? Is it for peace of mind? Does all that bring you peace of mind? Does it even bring you any satisfaction? You accumulate all this stuff. Does it bring you happiness? Now, I know a lot of people say, don't tell me about that because, I got money. I'm happy. Now, I'm not saying money don't make you happy. You get enough of it, you'll be happy. But even after you get the money, you may be happy. But happiness, and peace of mind. Because sometimes, do you not know when you get different things, it can bring another set of stresses or stressors in your life? It can bring a whole nother slew of anxieties and worry and unhappiness. Yeah, because then you wonder about other things. Do they love me for me, or do they love me for the money? Do they love me for what I can give or what they can get? So if you're content and you're not trying to have everything, it's mine and I want it right now. Contentment is yours. Do you want that right now? If you're sitting and you're listening to this take a moment and just kind of woosah and just think about it for a minute. What are some of the qualities of true commitment? Have you ever thought about that? I think one thing would be being content doesn't make you lazy. Okay? It don't confuse that now. It doesn't make you lazy. Discontentment affects, and hear this, discontentment, it affects people with money and it affects people without money. All right? The wealthy gets affected by it and the poor. So it affects both people. And guess what? It affects both the exact same way. and what they have in common is, wealthy people and poor people always think they want more. Did you know that? That's the one thing they have in common. Both think that they want more. And both think that they possibly need more. And then another thing is, don't parallel contentment with being in a low place or that, that you're weak. Okay? Or that you're less than because you want to be content. No. Do you know how much power you really have when you are content? Because when you're content with what you have, actually you're free. Yeah, you're free. You don't have to pretend. You're free from having all the I gotta have it now, all the stress. You're actually free. And this is gonna be the last thing, and then I'm gonna stop. Okay. Contentment. Contentment is this. It's not only possible, but you know what? We should desire to be both content and ambitious. Do not equate or think that you gotta be passive or lazy to be content. No, it doesn't. But like I said, when I looked at one of the definitions was you avoid greed. Okay. I'm not gonna go there. Anyway, if you're ambitious, that's a good thing. But if you're ambitious and it comes from a desire to serve God, to help others, and to improve yourself, so you can have a greater impact in your world, then the fulfillment of your ambition will bring you much happiness and a whole lot of contentment. So that's what I wanted to share. I just wanted to say something about contentment. So I hope I'm listening to this not alone, but somebody else realized that I could use more contentment. So right where you are, just be content.